Came across an interesting case there yesterday or today in the newspapers. It's to do with a High Court case involving a doctor who was suspended. The doctor was practicing not too far away from me, where I live. He was practicing in the Whitethorn Clinic in Celbridge, County Kildare. His name is Dr. Gerard Waters. He's 71 years of age, and he had pamphlets in his waiting room of his surgery with the title "No Pandemic Killing Us," and told the patient the state and the government were scamming the people. Basically, he was a doctor, medical doctor, who had his own very individual views about COVID-19, about the existence of it, about the seriousness of it, about the benefit of wearing masks and so on. Justice Mary Irvine found patients of Dr. Waters would be at a significant risk of remaining undiagnosed and untreated if they presented to him with COVID symptoms, and his practice was suspended last month. Suspended from practice by the President of the High Court last month, pending the outcome of an inquiry by the Medical Council. The decision was delivered in camera on the 2nd of March. However, it's now been published following an application by the Medical Council. The Medical Council were concerned because a banner appeared on the wall of the Whitethorn Clinic, which the Council was concerned misrepresented the basis for the making of the suspension order, and the judge, Justice Irvine, ordered the banner be removed. Her ruling detailed claims by a patient that Dr. Waters advised him the wearing of masks was causing illness. Dr. Waters was said to have handed out photocopied pages with death numbers from Ireland and Italy, bar charts showing the ages of victims in an effort to convince him that COVID-19 was a hoax. So here's a medical doctor practicing in Celbridge, Whitethorn Clinic, not too far from here, trying to persuade patients that COVID-19 was a hoax. He also had his staff not wearing any masks and so on. The patient claimed that Dr. Waters claimed people who are confirmed as having died of COVID-19 had not actually died from the disease, and those that did were terribly old. He also alleged the doctor suggested his symptoms were caused by the mask he was wearing during the consultation last September, and the difficulty that this patient had presented with was pains in his chest. The patient had originally contacted the surgery days earlier seeking a COVID test, but said he was informed by the secretary that they did not have a computerized system, so were unable to refer patients for COVID testing. The visit prompted a complaint to the Medical Council, and the patient claimed, as soon as I entered the surgery wearing my mask, I may add, I was treated to a barrage of nonsense about the hoax that is COVID-19, how the state and the government are scamming the people, and how masks are causing illness, the man said in his complaint. It was the most uncomfortable experience he'd sat through in years. Dr. Waters even suggested that my illness was as a result of that silly effing thing I was wearing, as he pointed to my mask. His behaviour was beyond inappropriate rather. The court then heard that when contacted by the Medical Council about the complaint, Dr. Waters admitted having set out his point of view on COVID-19, but maintained he did so in a reasoned manner. In his response, he claimed that death toll figures were inflated and that propaganda perpetuated by governments and the media in relation to COVID-19 was being used to front-run an economic collapse in the Western world. The President of the Medical Council then wrote to Dr. Waters expressing concerns and seeking assurances that he'd follow the HSE COVID-19 guidelines, but Dr. Waters refused to do so, declined to do so. So the High Court, Justice Irvine, said the suspension of the doctor would undoubtedly have adverse consequences for his patients, particularly those on the General Medical Services Scheme, who will have to find a new practitioner, but she said any adverse consequences for those patients were outweighed by the risks Dr. Waters' conduct poses to them and those with whom they live if he was permitted to continue with his practice regardless of the undertakings offered. The respondent's conduct exposes his patients to the very real risk of infection when attending his surgery, she said. If symptomatic for COVID-19, the respondent's patients would, in my view, be at significant risk of remaining undiagnosed and untreated or having their diagnosis or treatment delayed. Furthermore, patients with COVID-19 symptoms might not be advised to self-isolate, thus furthering community transmission. All of the evidence, she said, heard in the context of the present application leads me to conclude that the health, safety and welfare of the respondents' patients and the community in which they live can only be adequately protected by the imposition of the suspension sought. These concerns outweigh all other considerations, including the inconvenience, although burdensome, imposed on those patients who will have to find a new GP to attend with. So that is an interesting case. Basically, the suspended doctor inflicted the patient with a barrage of nonsense, in inverted commas, claiming COVID was a hoax, High Court was told. And that's in the April 1st edition of both the Independent and the Irish Times, and notwithstanding that it's the April 1st, it's not an April Fool's joke. The doctor, Dr. Gerard Waters, was actually suspended, or his licence is suspended for the moment anyway. Hope you find this video useful.